It sounds like Batman.
Well, it should look like Batman. And we're going to look at Batman a little bit today, asking what is the deal with all those pictures? It's not just a trick to get your little brother to read. Like everything in English class this year, we're going to appreciate and analyze choices. We're going to discuss the visual component of comics as a choice. Essentially, what can the art do that words alone cannot? And what can the art and words do together to add meaning? Your boy Will Eisner, the guy who drew the Spirit comic, has the most famous definition of comics, and it's going to work well for our class. He said, comics is just sequential art. In other words, images that come one after another, and their order helps to tell the story. All right, let's whip this dip. Let's take a look at a page from the excerpt of the Batman comic you were to read before viewing this. Oh, so you haven't read it yet? Then pause here. Read it, homie. All right, so let's take a look. The Killing Joke, first few pages. We'll see that despite having no words, it fits the Eisner definition and has much more to analyze besides. It is a sequence. The order matters. Now back to the bigger question, what can art do that words cannot? Let's try to say in words what's going on in these panels as our eyes snake down the page. Alan Moore, the author of the comic, could have written, "It's raining and the rain puddles are everywhere. A leaf falls as lights approach. The lights of the Batmobile which screeches to a halt in front of Arkham Asylum. Batman walks out and through the gates, past a police officer and Commissioner Gordon, who was drinking a coffee." But Alan Moore did not write that, despite how much time he could have saved Brian Boland, the artist of the comic. Instead, the pictures carry it through. So, why? A great question, and one which we may never know the answer to unless we have an interview with Alan Moore. But what we're interested in is what the effect is. What does it do? For one, my description was boring, and the art is pretty rad. But more importantly, there is actual meaning created in these pictures beyond what that description can do. So we're going to look at three aspects of comics today: layout, art, and text. Each of these is for you to analyze anytime you read a comic. Page layout, the size and arrangement of the panels and the gutters between them. Not all comics are neatly standardized rectangles in a 3x3 grid, yet even in the simplest format, where it seems that the layout is attempting to contribute nothing, that choice to have the format stay out of the way is a choice worth analyzing. The rigid order of the panels at the beginning of The Killing Joke contribute to the quick pacing. Also, it reflects the structure of Batman's logical, step-by-step approach to crime, which will be offset by the wildness of the Joker's random violence. A third effect is the evenness draws...
Batman, Daddy.
I am talking about Batman, yeah. A third effect of this simplistic layout is that the evenness draws parallels from page to page, where certain figures are in the same position on facing pages, thus connecting heroes with villains and showing that the rigid lines that we use in our mind to separate them may just be a matter of accident, and these characters may be less different than we think. The neatness will be disrupted, though. It's rare for any comic to keep an extremely formulaic 3x3 for the entire book. And in that break, we can gather much meaning as well. Always look for the panels that stand out. Bigger, differently shaped, oriented from horizontal to vertical. Any changes like that, the story's got something special going on here, and it likely accompanies a shift in tone or change in conflict. Let's take a look at some other examples of page layout. Let's take a look at Persepolis, which has a pretty formulaic format as well. It's almost in those 3x3s here, split up into a couple of 2x2s at the top, and then the one panel that sort of expands and lets the freedom go. The chapter's called The Veil, and you see the title at the top blackening most of the top with a little bit of white in the upper right-hand corner. These big, thick gutters separating the panels. Of course, at the bottom, when the girls are sort of teasing about the veil and how kind of silly and they're breaking free of it, likewise, the gutters go away, the panel distinctions break down. The form is mirroring the content. Here's a page from Dear Creature. At the top and the bottom with the images of the lovers in long, thin panels, you can see they're in parallel. The first one's in black, the second one's in white when they've been captured by the monster. In the middle, though, there's an interesting break in the format. The right-hand panel, the heads actually exit the frame, landing in the right side gutter. the format's not enough to contain them as they exit their standard existence and enter into this new world. Ironically, it's a world that's trapped and captured by the monster. More Batman. This one's from the Arkham Asylum comic, an unusual page format. You can see the first and third columns reading vertically up to down, and then the second one in the middle, which really disrupts it and has almost no narrative content. But what it's there to do is highlight the darkness of this murder that the Batman is hearing the Joker plan off screen over the phone. Your boy Alan Moore again on a Swamp Thing comic. The page layout is outrageous here. It's almost hard to tell where to start reading. You got this circle on the left with a big white gutter, and then the background image, and then it's these jutting parallelograms, I guess it's trapezoids, whatever it is, throwing themselves up into that part of the panel. Many different effects here, and I'm going to cut it short, but basically chaos. It reflects the hectic nature of the different conflicts going on in that. Epileptic by David B. The final panel of this page sort of jumps into the above two, juts up there with that extra rectangle which mirrors this character's head and forms a symbolic cross as it inserts itself into the first two panels. This is a hectic page as well. However, the gutters surrounding that bottom panel make a sort of rigidity to sort of control that chaos. Some things to look out for whenever you're looking at page layout. Just looking for those patterns, and where do they break? Does the break in the pattern reflect any deeper meaning? Any connection you can make between format and content is a good thing. The second thing to keep an eye out for is the art, which will be a whole lot harder to miss than the format. Are the lines bold or detailed? Childish, cartoonish, or scary real? Are they abstract and scribbly? The art can focus our attention. Notice how much face time those puddles get in The Killing Joke. They can focus our attention to create motifs, to intensify the mood. The Killing Joke is able to shift perspectives. Sometimes we are viewing the world from a cell, looking out. Sometimes from Batman's eyes, and sometimes from above or below. And all of these perspectives shed new light on the characters and help create the tone of the individual panels and of the individual characters. If you have studied painting, you know that color can add much meaning. But remember, coloring is often less in the creator's control than other aspects of the comic, so it's not the only thing. But even in black and white comics, the color can matter to the mood of the piece. Consider the darkness and shading and the ironies that can come from the juxtaposition of dark and light. So, just as when we considered page layout, what we are looking for in the art to clue us into meaning are the changes and variants. Does the artist switch perspectives? What might we now be considering from the new point of view? Is a panel suddenly darker or lighter? Does a new, freer, scribbling style replace the very realistic style? Or vice versa? Does the line get bolder? Do the backgrounds shift color or disappear? Do we get a panel that zooms into a detail? Does the color reinforce or contradict the mood? Always look for these places that change. That's where your meaning is. The third and final thing to watch out for in your analysis of comics is the text, the way the text interacts with the pictures. All of the old techniques for analyzing words still apply, but now we are additionally looking at how the words work with the art, how the placement of dialogue boxes and narration can add meaning and irony. Have you read the excerpt on pages 152 to 156 from Understanding Comics? Come on, do it. Pause. Okay, we're back. The balancing act, the dance that McCloud discusses, the ways pictures and words work together, is the key to great comics, and the way the format becomes more than just a way to illustrate the action that's already been told in words. Consider his examples. On the bottom left, we get this smiling woman, and the panel seems very cheery. However, her thought bubble says he's lying while she says, uh-huh. This creates a heightened dramatic irony where we know she does not agree with this person she's talking to, even though her face and her words says she does. The two bubbles so close together shows the thin line between deception and the truth. On the right-hand side, we get another ironic panel. The narration, after college I pursued a career in high finance, is offset by the picture, which is very dark, and obviously it's a robbery. So it's a little bit of a joke, and the juxtaposition of the two helps to create the humor. Let's go back and take a look at the killing joke. The only text that we get in these 4 pages is at the end on the very last panel, and it's the setup of a joke, right? 2 guys walk into a bar. Here we have another bad joke. There's these 2 guys in the lunatic asylum. It's clear from the picture that we're meant to see Batman and the Joker. But this narration isn't connected. Nobody's actually saying it. It's sort of commenting on the scene here. We're about to witness a really bad joke. The irony. Okay, one more look at an Alan Moore comic, and we're done. Chapter 3 of The Watchmen begins with a complicated joining of text and image. First of all, the 3 panels slowly fade out to show a man affixing a fallout shelter sign, and like all signs, it is symbolic. However, the added text, both the unconnected narrations of this pirate story and the dialogue where characters off stage discuss the nuking of Russia, function with the image to heighten the grim tone and allow the fallout shelter sign to take on more irony. Notice some of the bolded words in the dialogue bubbles. Sign, God, glow. These unseen guys off stage are eagerly demanding destruction. The text and pictures suggest how terrible of an idea this is. For it will be here, underneath this sign, that people will hide in the event of that nuclear war for which these unseen characters are now hoping. The scroll-scripted pirate story is not actually occurring in the main action of the strip, but the details of it comment on the scenario. The yellow and black sign of war, like the modern-day fallout shelter. The hopelessness and inevitable destruction that awaits if this nuclear war were to go on. There's a lot to take in, but the picture breathes meaning into the text boxes and dialogue, just as the dialogue and text boxes help us to understand the severity of this fallout shelter sign, a sign which otherwise seems innocuous. So what are we looking out for with text? Well, we're looking for words that stand out. Maybe they are bolded, or maybe it's more subtle. Are there any connections we can make between the words and the picture, beyond just the words are saying what's going on in the picture? Is there some sort of deeper synchronicity between one conversation and the larger conflict, between an seemingly unrelated narration and the bigger ideas? Do the dialogue boxes and text boxes contradict or reinforce the themes of the work? Remember, we're always on the lookout for the choices in the page layout, the choices artistically, and the choices with text, and the ways in which those texts are interacting with the images. We take a look at all those choices, we talk about what effects they have, and now we're analyzing comics.